The universe has a lot of stuff in it. People are often interested in this stuff, so they make different ways to learn about different things. But what if it's all connected, and what if there's a way to understand everything? So where should we start? Well, right now you're using a computer device to watch this, so let's talk about technology, which is the stuff people make to solve problems. Your computer uses a code to store information, and organizes that code so that it can figure stuff out and do certain things. It does the thinking, so you don't have to. People always use technology to solve problems. Is there a river in your way? Build a bridge. Is it too hot? Make a fan. Does your enemy have strong weapons? Make better weapons. Most great inventions happened because they needed to happen, and technology keeps getting better because inventions always build on each other. Okay, but who's making all this technology? It's people, of course. Technology is the study of things people make. That means that at the core of technology is the humanities, which is the study of people and what they do. For example, taking things people have done and connecting the dots to see how one thing leads to another thing is called history. History is not just studying the past, but telling stories and seeing how the past connects to the present. Speaking of stories, let's talk about literature, which is stories that people tell in an organized way that other people find interesting enough to repeat. Stories are usually written down, which brings us to linguistics. Humans make weird noises to represent ideas that they have, and when two humans use the same weird noises, then congrats, you have a language. Sometimes people don't understand each other, and in that case you have different languages. So different places have different languages, which makes sense because you probably want to hang out with people you can understand. That means there's different cultures all around the world. Art shows you what a culture looks like. Music shows you what a culture sounds like. Cuisine shows you what a culture tastes like. And dance shows you what a culture feels like. So at the core of the humanities is humans. That should be obvious. But what exactly is a human? For that we need to learn biology. Biology is all about living things. What counts as a living thing? Well, it's gotta be made out of cells, it needs to be able to, do stuff, and for that it needs energy, it needs to be able to keep balance, it needs to be able to grow, and it needs to be able to make more of itself. There's many different types of living things. Do they all get along? Oh yeah, they get along great, just kidding, they need to kill each other to survive. But nothing lives forever anyway, so most things just care about living long enough to reproduce. Okay, but how do living things reproduce? Well, it's all because of DNA. DNA is the blueprint for how to build a brand new living thing, and it exists inside all living things. Okay, but that's a lot of information. Where is all that information stored? Is there a book somewhere, or a hard drive? No, it's stored in very complex chemicals, and the proteins that read that information are also chemicals. That means at the root of biology is chemistry. Chemistry is the study of what things are made out of. Everything's made out of atoms, but there's different types of atoms called elements. Atoms are the building blocks for different molecules, which are the building blocks for every kind of substance. Sometimes different molecules will meet each other and exchange atoms to make new molecules. This is called a chemical reaction. Okay, but why are there different kinds of atoms? To answer that, we need to look at what atoms themselves are made out of. Different atoms have different numbers of protons in the middle. Neutrons are there too, so that the center of the atom doesn't explode. Electrons are floating around the center, and they're the thing that makes atoms bond with each other to form those molecules I was talking about earlier. The center of an atom is called the nucleus, but for some atoms the nucleus is so big that the atom becomes unstable. If the nucleus breaks, it releases a crap ton of energy, which is used in both nuclear power and nuclear explosions. So these atoms are held together by physical forces, and interact with each other because of physical forces, so at the root of chemistry is physics, which is all about how things move and move each other. Forces move things around. The more mass a thing has, the harder it is to move. Mass tells you how much stuff there is in a thing. Oh yeah, and things also attract each other. The more mass a thing has, the more attractive it is. All of us are on this big ball of rocks, so gravity makes us attracted to it because we're close to it. But if you were on a different ball of rocks, gravity would attract you to that. If you're kind of close to something but not that close, gravity makes you go in a circle around it. That's why the moon circles around the Earth, and the Earth circles around the sun. Our sun is just one of billions and billions of stars, and gravity pulls the stars into galaxies. There's billions and billions of galaxies all over the universe, and there's also a lot of other really cool things too, and all of these things are always in motion. So basically, physics explains that the entire universe is just balls of stuff floating around and bumping into each other. Quantum physics suggests that the smallest balls aren't actually balls, but rather clouds of maybe. But how do we know what's going to bump into what, and what's going to go where, and how strong is each thing, and how fast is it going? We need to make calculations. So to understand physics, you need to understand mathematics. Math is, of course, the study of numbers. What's a number? Well, I can't show you a number. I can show you symbols that represent numbers, but that's not the same. You can't perceive numbers with any of your five senses, but don't worry, you can still perceive them with your mind.
You can add numbers to each other to make new numbers. You can also do this in reverse, but if you do that too hard, you'll end up with negative numbers. You can also multiply numbers, where you add the first number to itself the second number of times. And you can do this in reverse too, but if you do that too hard, you'll end up with fractions. And you can do exponents, where you multiply the first number by itself the second number of times. And of course you can do this in reverse, but if you do that too hard, you might end up with irrational numbers, which are numbers that go on forever, but have no pattern that we can recognize. More on that later. Algebra is what you use when you have too many numbers to keep track of, so you make variables to represent them, so you can put them together in an equation to see how they relate to each other, and maybe make a graph out of it. But sometimes the graphs get really crazy. What if I want to know how steep the line is right over here? You need calculus for that, you just take the derivative of the line. Geometry is the study of shapes. A rectangle has 4 sides that all intersect at right angles, and you can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out how long the diagonal is. A square is a type of rectangle where all the sides are equal length. A triangle is just any shape with 3 sides, but they're actually so important there's a whole field of math named after them, because they're important for understanding angles. Finally, a circle is a shape where every point in the shape is equally distant from the center. To find the area of the circle, take the radius, square it, and multiply it by this weird number pi to get the area. Pi is weird because it's one of those irrational numbers we talked about earlier. Pi goes on forever and forms no repeating pattern. You see what this means, don't you? It means that every possible combination of numbers exists somewhere in pi. And if you use numbers as code for letters, that means every possible combination of letters also exists encoded in pi. And if that's true, if every possible combination of letters is there, then every book that has ever been written exists somewhere encoded in pi. Not only that, but every book that ever possibly could be written exists somewhere in pi. There are books, better than any book any human has ever written, that exist in the infinite string of numbers that exists in pi. You see what this means, right? Mathematics is infinite. It contains infinite information. Where is all this information stored? It can't be in our finite universe. Remember earlier we said math only exists in the mind? This infinite information can only be contained in an infinite mind, and that mind is what we call God. The fact that math governs the universe has caused some people to think we live in a computer simulation, but that doesn't explain how math is infinite. Math must exist in an infinite mind, so at the core of math is theology, and theology is the one field that unifies all the other fields. This is why the medieval church called theology the queen of the sciences. They studied theology because they were studying God, but studying God led to studying all other fields because the world is God's creation, and this is why the medieval Western church actually started modern science. Theology is the study of God. God is classically defined as that than which nothing greater can be conceived. In other words, God is the being that is infinite in every way. He is infinitely powerful, infinitely good, and has an infinite mind, like we already said. So math is applied theology, and physics is applied math. Chemistry is applied physics, biology is applied chemistry, the humanities are applied biology, and technology is applied humanities. Almost anything you can think of probably falls under one of these fields, but it all comes back to God.